Cameron Cepeda, Cohen,
Here.
Kemp,
Here.
Myers,
Here.
Owen,
Here.
Wolfstall.
Here.
Okay, and I'm going to read this memorandum into the record from Commissioner Hagan. Please be advised that I will be unable to attend the BOCC workshop scheduled for March 20th due to prior engagements out of town. Welcome to the Board of County Commissioners Comprehensive Plan Amendment Workshop. The Planning Commission staff will present to the board regarding pending applications for amendments to the comprehensive plan. No action will be taken this afternoon, and I will request now that planning staff begin with the first item A1.
Well, commissioners, good afternoon. It's David Hay with your Planning Commission staff. Today we have 6 items on the workshop agenda. There are 2 publicly initiated text amendments and 4 privately initiated map amendments. 2 of the map amendments are requesting a concurrent rezoning. That's 2320 and 2402. And 2320 was originally part of the October 2023 cycle and asked for a by right continuance at the December 13th, 2023 BOCC workshop. Let me introduce the first item. The first item is HC CPA 23-20, and Bryce Ferringer will be presenting. Thank you.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Let me share my screen. Good afternoon, commissioners. This is HC CPA 23-20. My name is Bryce Ferringer. I'm with Planning Commission staff. This application is located at 1322 East Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. This is a privately initiated small-scale map amendment located on approximately 4.83 acres, and the request is to change the site's future land use designation from residential 1 to light industrial planned. This is a general location map of the plan amendments that were originally submitted as part of the October 2023 submission cycle. This application is located within the rural area and falls within the limits of the Seffner Mango Community Plan. It's also within a wellhead protection zone. This is an aerial view of the subject site located on the north side of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard within the urban service area marked in blue. The subject site currently utilizes heavy commercial uses, which also extend to the east. The property located directly north of the site is currently vacant. Single-family residential uses abut the western boundary of the subject site and extend further north as well. Additionally, there are agricultural uses located to the northwest. The property that abuts the southwest corner of the subject site is a public institutional use owned by Hillsborough County. Light industrial, light commercial, and heavy commercial uses are interspersed along Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard to the east. A CSX transportation right-of-way is located directly south of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and is surrounded by single-family and vacant uses. The subject site currently has a future land use designation of residential 1, which is intended to designate areas for rural residential uses that are compatible with other short-term agricultural uses. Other uses, including rural-scale neighborhood commercial, office, and multi-purpose projects, may be permitted when complying with the goals, objectives, and policies of the future land use element. Residential 1 extends to the north, northwest, and west. Light industrial planned is located to the east. To the south, across Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, is the residential 4 future land use category. Residential 2 is located further west as well. The request is to change the site's future land use designation to light industrial planned, which is used to designate areas within the county that are suitable for industrial activities, but are located outside of concentrated industrial designated areas or in areas where the need for a site plan would be beneficial to ensure land use compatibility. Overall, the proposed amendment would eliminate the possibility for residential uses on the subject site and would allow for an increase from 0.25 to 0.75 FAR. Currently, the subject site allows for a maximum of 4 dwelling units or 52,598 feet of non-residential development. Under the proposed amendment, residential uses would be eliminated and the maximum allowable square footage would be increased to 157,796 square feet. Additionally, the applicant has notified Planning Commission staff that they intend on submitting a rezoning application to a plan development for this subject site. Planning Commission staff respectfully request that the board determine whether they prefer to review each of these applications concurrently. This concludes my presentation, and I can answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. We'll go into some board discussion. Does anyone have any questions? Any board
Commissioner
members?
Cohen.
Go ahead. Commissioner Cohen, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to make the comment that I tend to always be in favor of having the rezoning concurrently with these discussions. So if there are any of these today that would be appropriate to do that, you can, at least for me, I'm always in favor of doing that.
Yeah, great comment, and I'll echo that as well. I think there's another one or two on here as well. So
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. So if there's any other board members that want to input on that, but that makes sense to me for a companion on those. So
Certainly.
I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but we're just talking about A1, but good input. Anybody else? All right, let's move on to the next item, A2.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Melissa Dickens, Planning Commission staff. This item is HC CPA 24-01. This is a publicly initiated text amendment. It is to respond to a new requirement in state statute in Chapter 163 that calls for additional analysis and planning for wastewater. So this is to address something that was put in place during the legislative session last year. Next slide. Again, publicly initiated, this text amendment would apply to the One Water chapter of the comprehensive plan. The intent is to meet this new statutory requirement for wastewater planning. For reference, the statutory requirement is 163-3177 6C3. We have developed this amendment change with support from Hillsborough County Water Resources. Wanted to thank them for their technical assistance on this amendment. And we are currently working on the required analysis that is needed as part of this change to the comp plan and change to state statute. That will come before you in the public hearing packet. Next slide. Here is the proposed change. It would add a new policy to the One Water chapter. This is, as you can see, a rather lengthy policy. The reason for its length and its detail is because the statute is very detailed about what is required to be included or noted in the comprehensive plan. Summarizing it, there is a requirement to look at any development of more than 50 residential lots with more than one septic system per acre, and consider the feasibility of providing wastewater services within a 10-year planning horizon. There are also requirements to look at the different wastewater facilities that may be able to receive flows, capacity, and the projected wastewater flows and a timeline. This is a feasibility consideration, and again, the analysis for that feasibility consideration will be provided at the public hearing. Next slide. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions. Thanks.
Thank you for your presentation. Do any board members have any comments or questions?
I do.
Commissioner Kemp, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wonder, so you're going to provide an analysis at the public hearing, because obviously you didn't do that now. It would seem like we have to do this to comport with the state statute. I'm assuming it's tracks the state statute.
The analysis itself is not required to be adopted into the comprehensive plan. The analysis is being provided as part of the backup data and information that's required to support the comprehensive plan amendment, but the analysis would not change the requirement in the comprehensive plan. The requirement within the comprehensive plan is simply there must be an analysis.
Right. Now I understand that, but I am interested in analysis, because how would this and I don't know if you're prepared to answer that now, but I do want to know how this would affect as I've said before, there's 25,000 dwelling units or businesses, whatever, units within the urban service area that currently don't have access to water and wastewater. Is there right now any kind of assessment of how that would affect that?
Yes, ma'am. I can comment that this looks at properties within the urban service area as well. So it is properties within the urban service area, as well as any properties that may meet that minimum threshold in the rural area. Anecdotally, because of the requirement that it be more than 50 units per acre at a density of more than 1 septic tank per acre, there are more instances that we are seeing that are in the urban service area. So we will have that full analysis, but because of that threshold, the majority of parcels that would meet this qualification for the statute are in the urban service area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Any other commissioners? All right, let's move on to A3.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Bryce Faringer, once again, Planning Commission staff. This is HC CPA 24-02, 7200 Causeway Boulevard. This is a privately initiated small-scale map amendment located on approximately 4.2 acres. The request is to change the site's future land use category from residential 9 to residential 20. This is a general location map of the plan amendments submitted for the January cycle. The subject site is located in the central area of Hillsborough County. It's located within the Tampa service area and falls within the limits of the Greater Palm River Community Plan. This is an aerial view of the subject site located on the north side of Causeway Boulevard between South 72nd Street and Hermosa Drive. The subject site is zoned as residential single-family conventional 9 to the north and commercial general to the south. It currently contains heavy commercial uses. Light industrial uses are located to the immediate east. Single-family uses extend to the northeast, north, and northwest. Light commercial and vacant uses are located to the west. To the south, across Causeway Boulevard, are heavy industrial, light industrial, and heavy commercial uses. The subject site currently has a future land use designation of residential 9, which is intended to designate areas that are suitable for low to medium density residential, as well as urban scale neighborhood commercial, office, multi-purpose projects, and mixed-use developments. Residential 9 extends to the north, west, and east. To the south is the Office Commercial 20 future land use category. The Residential 6 future land use category is located further south as well. The request is to change the subject site's future land use designation to Residential 20, which is intended to designate areas with high density residential development, as well as urban scale neighborhood commercial, office, multi-purpose projects, and mixed-use developments. Overall, the proposed change would allow for an increase in the amount of non-residential development and maximum allowable dwelling units. Additionally, the applicant has also submitted a rezoning application for a plan development on this site as well. And as some of the board members previously indicated, we would, I guess, respectfully request a determination on whether you would like to hear those concurrently, which it sounds like you may. This concludes my presentation, and I can answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. Commissioners Cohen, you may want to comment on this one. Is this one of those as well that you're interested in hearing concurrent? Go ahead.
I think this one and the next one, if they're going to be available.
Okay, great.
I've got something, Commissioner Owen.
Go ahead, Commissioner Whistle.
Hey, Bryce. It looked like the entire map around that location was also residential 9. So I'm assuming that this wasn't one of those sites where 15 years ago or so, it used to be Res 4 and it was approved to go to Res 9. It looks like the future land use for this area was predicted to be Res 9. Is that, do we know that, or was this a change within the past 10, 15 years?
I would need to officially go back and review that. I'm not aware of any lower density, I guess, future land use category in this area. That would have to be something that I would look into.
No worries. Just so you have some context when you're looking into it. My challenge that continues to happen on some of these is it was one thing and it was approved to be slightly higher density, and then they never build it, and then they come back around and then they use the fact that it's now only 9 to 20 instead of 2 or 4 to 20 as a less of a gap. They use that as a justification 10, 15 years later to increase even further. And I have a big problem with that happening. I was just curious if this was one of those. So no worries.
Yeah.
Commissioner, I'm David Hay.
Yeah.
In my 20 years plus here, I believe that has always been the residential 9. There's
Perfect.
that area of Palm River has always been intended for that level of development.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Great, thank you. Any other commissioners? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to A4.
Good afternoon. This is Alexis Myers. I'm not sure why my camera is not connecting.
Yeah, we hear you, but we can't see you.
Okay, yes, I'm not too sure why it's not working. Okay, just gonna keep
Right.
going, if that's okay.
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
here to present HC CPA 2403, located at 1347 North Kingsway Road. Okay, this is a privately initiated plan amendment that is small in scale and approximately 8.57 acres. The request is to go from residential 1 to the light industrial future land use category. Here's the general location map. This amendment is within the rural area and within the limits of the Tonota-Sassa Community Plan. It is located north of Interstate 4 and east of North Kingsway Road and Sly Avenue. Here is the area of the site. For visual context, the subject properties are outlined in pink, and the blue line indicates the urban service area boundary. There is a vacant single-family home on one of the parcels, while the other is vacant. Kingsway Road goes over Interstate 4 as well. As far as the uses in the area, there are single-family uses to the north, west, and along the south across Interstate 4. There is also agricultural and vacancies in the area. Currently, the future land use designation of the site is residential 1. The typical uses include farms, ranches, residential uses, rural scale and neighborhood commercial uses, offices, and multipurpose projects. Commercial, office, and multipurpose projects shall meet locational criteria for specific land use. Other future land use designations shown in this map include residential 4 and agricultural estate. The applicant again is requesting to change the future land use category to light industrial. Typical uses in light industrial include processing, manufacturing, and assembly of materials, including food products, storage, furniture, or apparel manufacturing, packaging plants, wholesaling / showrooms with retail sales, which occupy no more than 20% of the floor area of the principal uses. Offices, research / corporate parks as the predominant uses, and subordinate uses or services such as hotels, motels, restaurants, suburban scale retail establishments, and recreational facilities. Next are the impacts. As far as existing conditions, currently under residential 1, which allows up to 1 dwelling unit per gross acre, the site could consider up to 8 dwelling units or 110,000 square feet of non-residential uses. Under the proposed future land use category of light industrial, No residential is allowed except limited accessory residential. The site could consider around 280,000 square feet of non-residential uses. The proposed amendment will result in the elimination of residential uses. However, it will increase non-residential uses and introduce industrial use within a predominantly residential and agricultural area. This concludes my presentation for HCCPA 2403. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. Any questions or comments from commissioners? I do think this is another one. I think Commissioner Cohen referenced it, where my preference would be for us to hear him at both times, the zoning as well. But any other commissioner comments, please let me know.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Any other comments by commissioners? All right, let's move on to A5.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm just pulling up my screen.
Afternoon.
All right. So good afternoon again, Sophia Garantiva, Planning Commission staff, and I'm here presenting on HC CPA 2404, the Public Schools Facilities Element Update. So to begin with, this is a publicly initiated amendment. Staff worked closely with school district staff on developing the proposed changes. The last amendment to the element was back in 2016. It is considered an optional comprehensive plan element, but it is a tool used to ensure intergovernmental coordination on school planning and does not allocate any funding. So the update is part of the county's overall comprehensive plan update, which has been occurring over the past few years, but it includes changes prompted predominantly by state legislation, changes in state legislation, and the revision of the interlocal agreement for school facilities planning, siting, and concurrency. And some of those proposed changes to the element include updating policies on the intergovernmental coordination and sharing of information per the interlocal agreement, updating policies on the location of school facilities and concurrency review processes, updating the level of service table, and updating references to state statutes and interlocal governmental, and the ILA sections, including some nomenclature and formatting. In terms of public engagement, we do have a virtual public meeting scheduled for March 28th, and we have a project page on our website dedicated to the update where the public can go and leave comments and follow us through the process. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I am here and available.
Great, thank you for the presentation. We'll move to board discussion. Any commissioners have any questions? Questions? Okay, I don't see any, so we will thank you for your presentation. We'll move on to the final one, A6.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. David Hay again with your Planning Commission staff. The next item, the last item for your workshop today is Future Land Use Map Amendment HCCPA 24-05. It's located at 13609 North Florida Avenue. Next slide, please. This is a privately initiated small-scale map amendment. The subject site is approximately 2.83 acres. Currently, the site has a split land use designation. The eastern portion of the site is designated as residential 12, and the western portion along North Florida Avenue has that office commercial 20 future land use category. The applicant is seeking to unify the entire site under that office commercial 20 future land use category. Next slide, please. Here we have the general location map. It is located within the urban service area. It falls within the boundaries of the Greater Carrollwood Northdale Community Plan. It is just north of Fletcher on North Florida Avenue. It's west of Interstate 275. Next slide, please. Here we have an aerial of the subject site. We're kind of looking north. The subject site is outlined within that yellow boundary. You could see Fletcher Avenue to the south, North Florida Avenue to the west. You've got Interstate 275 to the east of the site, and then 138th Street is the next cross street to the north. As you can see, the North Florida Avenue corridor is predominantly commercial in character. It has a mix of light and heavy commercial uses. There is single-family detached immediately to the east of the subject site, between the subject site and Interstate 275. Next slide, please. So here we have the adopted future land use map. You could see the split in the land use. Again, that red represents the office commercial 20 future land use category, and that kind of tan color represents, I guess it's orange tan, residential 12. And that's all the properties between Florida and Interstate 275. You do have a lower density residential development pattern further to the west on the west side of Florida Avenue. So typically, next slide, please. Here we have the entire site under that office commercial 20 future land use category. I should note the main difference, again, the office commercial 20 does allow for that community commercial type uses, and the residential 12 only allows for neighborhood commercial type uses. Again, also the density would increase under that from that on the eastern portion from the residential 12 to the office commercial 20, which allows consideration of up to 20 dwelling units per acre. Next slide, please. Under that split, currently under the adopted map, it has a maximum of 45 units could be considered, or a maximum non-residential intensity of 77,972 square feet. If the site was approved under that office commercial 20 for the entire site, the potential density would increase to 56 dwelling units and a total of 92,456 square feet of non-residential development. Again, the commercial intensive uses would now be able to be considered over the entire site. Next slide, please. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Commissioners, any questions? Anybody? I don't see anybody. So if there's no other questions, that staff appreciate all your hard work on this and your presentations, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.